Welcome back again to Spotlight, where we feature the University of Central Arkansas's College of Arts, Humanities, and Social Sciences. I'm Donna Lampkin-Stevens, and today I'm joined by my friend and new colleague, Dr. Clay Arnold, who is the chair of the Department of Political Science. So Clay, welcome to Spotlight.
Thank you. Pleased to be here.
So, political science, always relevant.
Always. Relevant and always changing. Yeah.
Relevant and changing. So let's start with you, Clay. Where'd you grow up, I guess, first?
Well, I'm a native of South Carolina.
Oh, okay.
Though I'm also an Army brat, so I moved around a lot, but my most formative experiences, first years of school, all of the family, college, and so forth, in the state of South Carolina.
Okay. Where'd you go to undergrad?
I did my bachelor's and master's both at the University of South Carolina,
Okay.
and then went on to do the PhD at the University of Arizona.
Okay. So, were you always interested in political science? Tell me about your...
I was.
And what caused that?
I don't have a good answer for that. I've always been interested and did well in history in grade school, and perhaps because my father being in the Army and our moving about,
Sure.
I paid a little more attention to affairs. He was sent to Vietnam, and so we were stationed in the Washington, D.C. area. So I must have absorbed
Sure.
that kind of interest. But I first declared political science as a major with the thought that I would pursue a career in law.
Oh, okay.
But the more political science courses I took, and in particular those in the field of political theory, I just was intrigued and said, I just want to know more about that. And that's what led me to a career in academia.
So, did you go straight on to your graduate work, or did you have a job?
I laid out not quite a full year after graduating in order to make the money to...
You knew you always wanted to go.
I did, and I expressed my interest in the master's program, but they had already awarded all the financial scholarships they had. So I worked in a factory, which only confirmed my...
Absolutely. I had one of those summers one time.
my desire to not work in a factory, and did the master's program and then pursued the PhD.
And so you knew you wanted to teach in college?
Yes.
Okay. So when did you got out at the University of Arizona? What was your dissertation, by the way?
It was on, well, this is going to sound so arcane, linguistic theories and approaches to political theory questions and political theory methodologies.
Oh.
So it was language and the practice of political theory.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. So then you start looking for jobs, and what was
that was always the challenge. My area of political theory, the subfield of political theory, probably has the least number of tenure track lines in political science departments. So it was a bit of a roll of the dice to go that way. But I did secure a visiting assistant professorship at the University of Texas, Arlington for 2 years, and then...
While you were still looking for the tenure line position?
That's correct.
Okay.
And then did get a tenure track line at Emporia State University in Kansas.
In Kansas. And you were there for...
I was there for 17 years,
Wow.
plus or minus a month or two.
Thinking you'd stay there forever, maybe?
I thought that's the way it would be. I never did envision myself pursuing a position of chair, but at that time, that was about the only way I could be competitive for positions elsewhere. And that's what brought me to UCA.
And that was what year?
I came here in 2005.
2005. So what? So you came in as chair, and what was the state of the department then? It was in the old College of Liberal Arts.
It was in the College of Liberal Arts. Apparently, a couple of years earlier, it had been removed from a combined unit of geography, sociology, and political science. And I sensed with some of the more senior members of the department, they were quite relieved to be independent and stand alone.
Had it been independent ever before that? Or do you
I believe so.
Oh, okay.
I believe it had been a standalone department, and then I think it was under the administration of President Thompson that this reconfiguration combining those departments occurred. But they had all been separated into standalone departments by the time I arrived.
Okay. And how many faculty were there? I mean, has the department grown over the years, or just talk about some numbers, faculty, students?
Right now we have 11.
Okay.
We've had as many as 12.
Okay.
We had a faculty member resign to take another position right when the pandemic started.
Oh.
So that line did not get filled and may not be for quite some time yet. I think when I first arrived there might have been a total of 10.
Okay.
So
it's been fairly stable.
Pretty stable,
for,
yes.
for all this time. So let's talk sort of about the. I mean, are there concentrations? Talk about the department as a whole.
Yeah, it actually hosts 3 different majors. There's one in political science, there's another in public administration, and also one in international studies. And I believe we're the only public institution in Arkansas that offers all 3 at the undergraduate level. And within each of those, sometimes they're called tracks or concentrations or emphases. So it's almost kind of like a Chinese menu of opportunities. The international studies program, you can concentrate in international affairs and security issues, international development and globalization, or a concentration in regional studies. The public administration program, we're going to be rolling out a brand new bachelor's in public administration degree, assuming full board approval in May, that will offer concentrations in governmental and nonprofit management, as well as policy analysis and advocacy.
Okay.
In political science, we have subfields, 6 of them, and currently majors are required to sample at least from 4, allowing them to use their 9 credit hours of elective to sort of gravitate to the subfield that appeals to them. And those subfields, based upon our number of faculty, represent the diversity of the field of political science, American national, state, and local government, comparative politics, political theory, public administration, public policy, international relations.
So do you find that students, that entering freshmen want to study political science or one of these, or is it more of a found major?
That's a good question. I don't have any hard numbers, but my instinct is that probably a majority of our majors come to UCA having decided to major in one of those 3.
That's impressive.
We do pick up students, particularly with public administration. I think one of the things we face are certain misperceptions about the field.
Let's talk about those.
About what is political science or what you can do with public administration and so forth. And I think in the community and the public, those perceptions are unduly narrow and not always flattering. And so as students learn more about the discipline, I think they go, oh, maybe that's something for me. Or they take one of the lower division course offerings we have in the lower division core and are awakened to the subject matter or inspired by one of the splendid faculty in my department, and one thing leads to another. Or they minor and then opt to make that a major, things like that.
And you've got about a good number of majors.
Based upon the official census date of last fall, 150. That includes double majors, about 60 minors. We also we have minors in all 3, plus legal studies as a minor. It's not a major; it's just a minor.
Now, is legal studies a fairly new?
It is.
Oh, okay.
I would say maybe it came on board just before the pandemic.
Okay.
And it was really strongly recommended by some of the academic advising advisors that were hearing
what students
these
were wanting.
interests. I think it was in part due to students' perceptions and beliefs that a legal studies minor would be a real added benefit for those thinking of law school, and it's certainly a more than fine minor. I don't know that it gives them any additional advantage over other minors or majors, assuming you do well
Sure.
in those areas
Sure.
of study. But it's grown very well, and so we're very pleased. It too has concentrations to allow students to gravitate to areas of greatest interest. There's a concentration in law and government, another one in law and markets, another one in law and society. And these all draw on long-standing existing courses across many different departments.
Another
in colleges.
interdisciplinary, yes.
So it weren't any new courses designed, just sort of the organization and packaging of them.
So do you find, maybe, I don't know if it's just that I'm getting older, that I'm paying more attention. Do you find that students are paying more attention to politics and are asking these questions and voting and all that kind of stuff? What's your anecdotal evidence?
Well,
of that?
there is among our majors,
Yeah.
which I don't know is necessarily a fair representation
Yeah.
of the student body at large. I think the faculty who teach our introductory level U.S. government course will say, boy, there are a lot of them that really don't have even the most basic nuts and bolts about...
And they don't typically go on to become political science majors.
Not necessarily.
Oh, really? So they, okay.
Not necessarily. I don't believe it is that common in a lot of Arkansas high schools that there would be a separate U.S. government kind of course. I know they're obligated to do civics, social science kind of content. But so it's the case that some of the students in these introductory level courses have a low level of knowledge or awareness of some of the nuts and bolts, fundamentals, basics of government. But you could say that a lot about citizens in society.
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
Civic literacy is not probably as high as certainly political science faculty would say it needs to be.
Or journalism faculty. I'll tell you, I teach my advanced reporting class. We learn about government. We learn about local government. We learn about state government. We cover city councils, things like that. And they all seem to, not all, but they seem to really, they connect the dots by the end of the semester, and they were like, oh, now I see how these things are working.
You know, one of the challenges, at least in my experience, is that there's a large number of people that probably view government like I might math. And you just go, oh gosh. But I am certainly convinced that even the person most opposed to anything politics or government probably have an interest in some policy area issue of some sort, and that can be sort of the way to open the door and hook their interest. You know, if they are upset about a certain policy, well, how did that policy come about? Why did it have the effects it did? You know, what would be a better policy? How would that have to be proposed and deliberated? And there you sort of draw them in to the structure, dynamics, processes of government at all levels. Jumping out a little bit, again, about a year before the pandemic, we sponsored, along with other units on campus, a Citizens Academy.
I was going to get back to that, yeah.
Which was dedicated to
One
the
time,
idea.
we got to do it one time?
Yes, I didn't want to pursue it virtually during the pandemic. I think it needs to be.
I mean, this is going to come back.
Yes.
So let's talk about the Citizens Academy.
It was open to students for academic credit. It was open to university staff, faculty, citizens who wish to participate. That the idea to better engage with your government, you need to be more familiar and knowledgeable of it. The focus was largely on local regional government. We had 33 different speakers of different entities, all the regular units of government, mayor's office, city council, all the departments, most of them from both the city and the county, certain regional entities, some of the nonprofit social welfare agencies. And we had an interesting mix of both students and residents. I learned a lot myself.
So this went on over the course of a whole semester?
It met for 13 sessions, once a week in the evening. And the idea was to I charged the speakers with saying, what is it citizens need to know about your particular unit, department, organization? And what and where can citizens assist in your unit's activities or mission? And the ultimate goal for the enrolled participants was to design a civic engagement plan proposal. They weren't obligated to actually execute it, but really design it in great detail so that any organization, a fraternity, a sorority, a church, looking to do a community service project could come to our virtual library shelf and say, well, here's one that we could perhaps work with. And I'm very hopeful of resurrecting all of this and developing that momentum once the pandemic has settled down.
Where did that idea come from? Was that your idea? Was it?
It was mine, not totally mine. There are citizens academies all over. They tend to be primarily focused on law enforcement to improve community and police law enforcement relations, and which is quite good. I was just looking to expand that to cover all of local government as much as we could. And I think the speakers that came and presented were extremely pleased to do so.
And this was in fall of 19, right?
I believe so.
Yeah, just before, okay. So would the plan be that you would do it how often?
My thought was for the students enrolled in academic credit, they would attend in the fall the actual academy and the speakers, but then would enroll for a 1 credit hour independent study in the spring to really develop the civic engagement plan proposed, because they would need to work more closely with the chosen unit to learn from them, the particulars of how this project would help, what kinds of permissions they might need, the timelines that would be involved, calculate budget, and so forth.
So they did that in the spring of 2020.
I believe that's correct.
So they did get. You do have some of those.
I do
plans.
have some of those.
How many did you get?
I think I have 9.
Okay, good.
Good. You're really challenging my memory here.
Do you remember some of the topics?
There was one that really caught my eye was to really encourage and make easier citizen initiatives, which is sort of they didn't get to follow through on that, and as you might know, the state legislatures looked to tighten those kinds of standards.
Right.
But I should have looked back on my little library there to see what those other topics were to be able to tell you.
Well, we'll talk more about this going forward, because you would like to bring it forth.
Definitely.
Okay, excellent. Well, let us know what we can do to help. What other opportunities do you see in our new college, Clay? I mean, you've already been working with your colleagues in the old College of Liberal Arts, but what chances do you see of some really exciting things?
Well, there are some kind of, they might be considered quirky by others, but one of the things that occurred to me, and this was before the pandemic fully set in and sort of interrupted everything, it occurred to me how easy it would be, for instance, under our new college to do joint efforts around a common singular theme. We have a course in our department on the politics of revolutions. I could see the music department doing programs on the music of revolutions, English and literature, art and the art of revolution that have been influenced by revolutions. I think all the units in one way or another could, in many ways, join in a series of programs around something like revolutions. But one that occurred to me more recently was that it strikes me in one way or another we're all involved in the study of and a contribution to a sense of community. And that to me seems to be a very inviting opportunity for joint action
Yeah, yeah.
in a variety of forms, whether it's new courses, selected topic courses, cross-listed courses, other sort of out-of-the-classroom activities and programs, presentations.
So what do your students, what do your graduates typically go on to do? Do many of them go straight on to graduate school, or?
We do have a good many that do that, as well as law school. I recall one year we had 32 graduates and 27 of them had been accepted to law schools or graduate school
Wow,
programs.
that's fabulous.
That was sort of a high water mark,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
our majors really prepare them for quite a variety of pursuits. We've actually had some of our graduates go on to medical and veterinarian school, believe it or not.
Now, I wouldn't have thought that
Just goes to show you that if you acquire these sort of aptitudes, these academic skills, that it's applicable in so many different and rewarding ways.
Well, talk about some of those skills. Critical thinking, what else?
Yeah, critical thinking, communication skills, writing skills, but identifying and diagnosing problems, applying ethical reasoning to decision making, planning and coordinating group or collective activity. Those are as valuable in non-governmental settings as they are in official public sector and governmental settings, in my opinion. And our students pursue careers in government and law, in the business area. And they go into law enforcement. Some go to journalism. What's the news about? Often about government and political officials and issues.
Do we have some elected officials who've gone into?
Quite a few. I wish I could readily name all of them off to do them justice, but former Mayor Tab Townsell
Okay.
is
Was it political science?
at UCA.
Okay. Okay.
And predates my arrival, but a former Arkansas State Supreme Court justice is another.
Who was that?
I don't recall the
Okay,
name, but
okay.
Senator Rapert
Yep.
was a graduate of the political science program here.
So, what challenges do you see, both, just within the department, society, higher education?
Well, yeah, for the department, the demographic trends as they've been portrayed, show maybe declining levels of college eligible or aged students in the future, and in our university enrollments sort of have indicated that. So maintaining the adequate levels of enrollment in our program and the staffing to support that. That always involves budgetary challenges. That one never goes away. But political science is such a diverse field of study that to do it justice, it does require a number of faculty with areas of expertise and competency to cover those areas, rather than having faculty to really step way out of their areas of training to try and cover something like a Congress, for instance, a major institution. But we're at 11, and I think that's really the barest minimum for staffing what we are offering in the way of our 3 majors and 4 minors. So that's the biggest challenge that I see in the near future.
Let's just get this out here. Why? I mean, we've kind of danced around this, but why is political science in any of those areas of study such a valuable skill to have, or not skill, but a valuable background, educational background to have? What it makes for better citizens. I mean,
well, it sounds a little odd, as so many other of my statements I'm sure do, but citizens are or should be, in a manner of speaking, political scientists themselves, students of, participants in public affairs and decision making, and that needs to be informed.
I mean, I talk about ignorant voters. They're not dumb, but they're not educated about the things that they are trying to make decisions about.
Right.
So I agree.
And the most valuable kind of learning is the learning by the doing, the actual engagement, participation in. And it sort of ties in with the purpose of the Citizens Academy. Where, how can citizens do that? And the most likely areas would be at the most immediate local, regional levels. And as you learn the particulars, the circumstances of local government and local affairs and issues beyond what you might just see in a headline or hear on a 30-second broadcast blip or blurb, changes your perspective.
Yeah.
I think people would be more open to what we have in common, shared interests, rather than what divides and antagonizes us.
And I think that's a real important thing to remember.
You know, if you think of
today.
politics as contention, something to fight over, if that's what you think it is, that's what you get.
Yeah. It's a noble.
If you think of politics as something around which to join in common, share, and participate and deliberate, that's what you'll get to.
Yeah. That's what we're wanting to put out. Yeah. All right, Clay, we'll have you back to talk more about when you resurrect the Citizens Academy.
I look forward to it.
Do we think that'll be in the fall or?
Probably another year out.
Okay.
To get the invitations out and the schedule made, I would have needed to have started months ago. And the pandemic is still just iffy enough that I haven't.
But maybe by fall of 23.
Yes, that's my goal.
And I bet we'll have you back before then.
All right, great.
Thanks for joining us today on Spotlight, and we'll be back next time.